Look, I'm going to be completely honest with you, okay? If you are broke, it's not because you lack opportunity. It's because you're addicted to a lifestyle that makes success impossible. And I know this to be true because I was living the exact same lifestyle. And up until that point, I was broke. And it wasn't until I fixed it, I went from zero to 3,000 to $36,000 in a single month to building a multiple six-figure profit online business all in under 12 months at age 20. Okay, so in this video I'm going to be giving you 4 things that you need to give up, and if you give up these 4 things then you'll get rich, and if you don't give up these 4 things, well, then you won't get rich. So without further ado, we're going to jump on the computer and I'm going to walk you through each of the 4 things. So the first thing that you need to give up is this idea of a work-life balance. And the reason that this is important is you probably want to make the top 1 to 5% income of a Western country, which is about $10,000 to $100,000 a month. Okay, that would put you in the top 1 to 5%. And the truth is, most people, they want this thing, but then they live with average habits. And just by saying you want a work-life balance, you can kind of understand what I mean. You saying that you want this and then you wanting to live like this, these 2 things are not congruent. Okay, so what people want to do is they want to play video games, they want to watch Netflix, they want to go out with the boys, and they want to sit down and doom scroll. And this is the idea of a work-life balance. The main point is work-life balance is a 9 to 5 concept, okay? This originates from the 9 to 5 world, the job market world. And the reason that the work-life balance exists is because, firstly, people hate their jobs, okay? They don't want to be there, but they're kind of forced to go to work as a means to an end, okay? Because they need money to pay the bills, they need money to pay their rent or mortgage, and they need money to put food on the table. So they're essentially being forced to do this as a means to an end, because if they don't do this, then what's the other option? Okay, be homeless. So they do this as a means to an end, and because they hate it, then they escape at the end of the day, okay? So they'll work from 9 till 5, they'll be home by like 6 p.m., about 7 p.m., and then they escape because they fucking hate their lives. And what you have to understand is this lifestyle of the work-life balance, this is not built with the intention of these people becoming successful. It's not built for success. Rather, it's built to make these people effective workers, okay? So you have to understand immediately that, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you want to see it, business does not work like that. Business is not something you can just do as a means to an end, okay? You can't just clock out as soon as the clock strikes 5. And the reason you can't just clock out is because the way that a job works is you attend and you get paid for the hours that you do. But with a business, you get paid for the problems that you solve. So if you have a genuine constraint in your business, or you have a problem in your business, if you don't solve that problem, then you're never going to get paid. And if you don't get paid, well, then you're fucked, essentially, okay? And to be at this point where you're able to solve every problem, it requires absolute obsession. And a business is unlike a job where you just do what you have to do and then you leave. There's also competitors in the market, and if you're not on top of the ball and you're not doing what needs to be done, then unfortunately you're gonna get wiped out by the competition. So if you're not obsessed, not only will you be unable to like solve problems, but on top of that as well, you're gonna get wiped out by the competition. And yeah, we can argue that those things are a waste of time, those things that I mentioned, but that's besides the point. Like, we're going like really deeper here, and we're realizing that they just take away the obsession from the business. So the next thing you need to realize is, like, nobody's forcing you to start a business, okay? You don't need to start a business. This is optional. But when it comes to a job, if you don't have a business, then you need a job. Like, there's no other option. Unless you're like a hot chick. If you're a hot chick, you can get a sugar daddy, you can just marry a beta male provider, and he'll just provide for you. But I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you're probably not a hot chick, okay? So you don't need to start a business. No one's forcing you to do this, okay? So the only way for you to make progress in the business is to be proactive, use your own brain, be a high agency person, and work on it. Because unlike a job, nobody's gonna tell you what to do. You just have to sit down one day and be like, you know what, I'm gonna start a business. Okay, well, I gotta make money. And you're like, huh? Like, how the fuck do I do that? And then you have to figure it out. And of course, you can shortcut that process by reading books, getting a mentor, watching videos online like this one. But at the end of the day, it comes a point where you just have to start, okay? And if you're doing this thing that nobody's forcing you to do, and you want to win and you want to be able to solve all the problems, if your heart is not in that, then you just won't win. Because as I told you before, a business is just not something you do as a means to an end, okay? Happiness and fulfillment shouldn't come from eating ice cream or watching porn or going on Netflix or hanging out with the boys. Happiness must come from progress in the business. It's not just something you can simply do on the side, like a little side hustle or as a means to an end. We're trying to make dangerous amounts of money here. We're talking $10,000 to $100,000 a month. And this requires you to go all in. Okay, so there's like this age-old quote, which is the man who enjoys walking will walk further than the man who enjoys the destination. So to go back to what I was speaking about before when it comes to competitors, if there's a guy like you and he's like, yeah, I want to work-life balance, and there's a competitor, and the competitor, he loves the game of business, he's absolutely obsessed, and he's all in, and this is the only thing he obsesses about. Who do you think's willing to do more work? Well, it's obviously the second guy, because when the first guy's done about 6 to 8 hours of work, he's like, yeah, man, I need balance or I'm going to burn out. And he's gone. Fuck, I don't know what happened to my voice there. But he's gone. Meanwhile, the second guy, he's like, fuck, there's only 24 hours in a day. I wish there was more time. I have to sleep, right? And it doesn't even have to be an extreme example of that. Even if you guys both did 8 hours of work, okay? So you did 8 hours of work and you want the work-life balance, and this obsessed motherfucker, he does 8 hours of work. Who do you think produces more work in that time? Who do you think produces better work? Who do you think gets more insight? Well, it's always going to be the second guy. So you need to understand work-life balance. This idea of work-life balance, it's a facade. You're never going to be able to balance business and then just get rich as fuck, especially if you're a student and you go college or you work a 9 to 5. It's just not going to happen. So the easiest way to actually enjoy business more is choose a business model that you actually enjoy, or just choose a niche within a business model that you enjoy. So for example, if you're an online coach, which is the business model that I recommend, then if you're big into fitness, okay, become a fitness coach. If you're big into relationships, become a relationship coach. That only makes sense. And it's when I say this to people, people say like, yeah, but you're a pussy if you choose a business model just because you enjoy it, because you're meant to do what you're supposed to do, not what you feel like doing. And you're right. You're actually right. You're completely right. However, there's a caveat. And the caveat is this. If there was only one business model in the entire world that could make you $10,000 to $100,000 a month, then you would be right. But there's not. There's thousands of ways to make money online. So it only makes sense to choose the one that you enjoy. Okay? So the analogy that I like to use for this is the people who say that, they see this as a race between a Toyota and a Ferrari. Of course, if you had to choose one of these cars and you had to race the other one, you'd always choose the Ferrari because you want to win. Okay, but business is not like that. It's more so a case of Ferrari versus Ferrari, okay? So you can choose any business model and they're all basically efficient. They'll all get you to the destination you want in the same time, but you just choose the one that you prefer. So for example, if you like the red Ferrari, then you choose the red one. If you like the blue one, you choose the blue one. For example, when I started out in the online business space, the biggest business model was SMMA, and I just fucking hated the idea of sitting down and calling plumbers or fucking dentists or all these random businesses that these SMMA guy calls, right? I couldn't do that. So what did I do is I became an online coach and I was teaching men how to quit porn and I was getting paid thousands of dollars for it. Okay? So just choose the business model that you see yourself doing and you'll actually be able to enjoy. And it goes deeper than just wasting time or, love of the game and obsession. It's not just about that. Work-life balance affects your brain chemistry as well. And this is really important, okay? So those things that you're going to be doing like outside of work, they spike your dopamine and then your dopamine crashes and that makes your work feel harder. This is why you find it hard to focus on work. So I want you to see this graph here, okay? As you can see on this axis, okay, this side we have dopamine, here we have time. When you do these things during your work-life balance time, which might be, I don't know, playing video games, okay? That spikes dopamine so high. And when you stop doing it, your dopamine crashes, but it doesn't just crash to this dotted line, which is your baseline. It actually crashes below that, which means now you feel like shit. And you feel like shit until you get back to baseline, which can take a very long time, okay? And if you try to work in this period, well, guess what? You're not going to be able to do it. You're going to feel like shit. And the crazy thing is, this amount of dopamine that's being released at the peak, right, which can be from like gaming, drinking, smoking, going out with your friends, doing whatever you do, right, for this work-life balance, work will never release the same amount of dopamine as this, because work is something where you have to sit down and you have to lock in for a few hours and you don't get instant gratification. If you smoke, you take a puff, you feel it immediately. You drink, you feel it immediately. You fuck a chick, you feel it immediately. But with business, you can work for like 3 months and you get nothing in return. So business would never release this amount of dopamine. So what can actually end up happening is not only if you work in this period do you feel like shit, but because you're so used to this high dopamine spike from all these fun things that you're doing, the next day when you come down, when you sit down at your desk, right? You come at the desk and you're like, okay, I'm gonna lock into my business. It just doesn't feel as good. And the problem with that is now you just keep seeking the things that you were doing before because work feels like shit. And over time, if you're in this deficit or work is just not spiking your dopamine as much, right? So the peak of the dopamine from work might just be like here, and obviously the other habits are here. Then you start associating work with boredom and you start associating all the other things in your life as fun. And this makes you hate the game of business. You need to make sure that you're absolutely dialed in 100% of the time. And you need to get rid of this work-life balance stuff. And we can even take this a step further, okay? And it actually destroys attention as well. And I've got the perfect analogy for you. Again, I'm using gaming, but it can be like any other work-life balance fun shit, okay? And by the way, when I say work-life balance is bad, I'm not talking about the gym. Go to the gym, don't be a fat fuck. But imagine the milk in this image, okay, represents your attention. So here, you got all the milk here, you got no milk here. And you're like, cool, I'm gonna pour the milk, aka my attention, from gaming to business. So you pour the milk, okay? You would think that you end up with this, okay? A nice, clean, empty glass. There's no milk in the gaming, aka no attention in gaming. And 100% of my attention is now in business. But that's not the case because there's a concept in productivity called attention residue. And what actually happens is, even if we move the milk from this glass to this glass, there's still a residue of milk on it. So what that means is you will think about gaming during work. So for example, if you play a game, like maybe it's a story game, or you even play an open loop game, for example, League of Legends, because your attention is still there, and because that releases an insane amount of dopamine that work can never release, you're gonna be fucked when you're working. You're like, fuck man, like I gotta hurry up and finish the work so I can jump on the game. Or you're gonna be thinking about the game. Or you might even say, yeah, I'm gonna take a little break now. And then you jump on the game. Or you might even do what I did recently and you're gonna say, yeah, I'm just gonna play an hour a day after work. Let me tell you, I never played for a fucking hour any single day. Always went to a 2 to 3 hour session. In fact, I finished the entire GTA 5 story mode in about a week and a half. And that's a fucking long ass story mode, okay? So that's how fucked this is. So even me now, I've cut those things off because they don't serve any purpose to my business, okay? So this is not about having no fun. When you position it like that, it makes your life sound shit. But rather than saying, you know, I'm not doing these things, I'm not gonna have any fun, I'm just gonna be locked in like fucking Batman in a Batcave, that's not the case here. See it in a positive light. It's not about not having fun, it's about protecting my focus so I can become successful and set myself up for the long run. You know, in this early stage, you need obsession. You don't need balance, you need obsession, okay? So that's the first thing that you need to give up. The first thing that you need to give up is this idea of work-life balance because I promise you, this does not serve you. So the second thing that you need to give up is networking or joining networking groups. I see so many entrepreneurs doing this shit, okay? Here's a reality that you need to accept right now. The people you want to network with don't join networking groups. I'm gonna repeat that shit again just to like really dial this shit in your head. The people you want to network with, they don't join networking groups. If you join a networking group, and you'll see these online all the time, like all these like online influencers selling, oh, top 1% male and the new rich and all these crazy fucking groups, right? There's not a single guy inside of there that you actually want to network with because if you're an entrepreneur, you would think, yeah, I'd want to be connected with a guy who has lots of money, he's got a lot of motion, and potentially I could connect with him, learn a few things. Those people don't join those groups, okay? What actually happens in these groups is they attract a bunch of beginners who think that they're going to be around these advanced people and they all believe the same concept and they all just end up joining and it's just a bunch of beginners. And you'll see these guys on Instagram with like this exact type of picture, and bear in mind, I just went on Google and search dude with dude smoking cigars, and you'll see them with their clothes on, they got a cigar, and they're like talking to the dude, and all they're doing is talking with each other, sharing ideas, introducing themselves, but there's no real value. So at the end of the day, this shit is a waste of time, okay? Like I would genuinely say you get nothing out of it, just cheap dopamine, because you're going around, you're meeting with dudes, and you're just talking shit. And I've met a lot of these people who emphasize like, yeah, I'm networking and shit. And every single one of them is poor. I have done zero networking in my entire business life. And I went from zero to over $200,000 profit a year in less than a year. Like it's absolutely insane. So what actually happens is these people start to realize, and you might realize this too when you feel that urge of like, yeah, I'm gonna go like talk to entrepreneurs and network. You sit down and work is extremely hard, and then naturally you feel resistance. So you're like, fuck it, I'm not gonna do the work. So to feel productive and to feel like you're doing something, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna go network. I'm gonna go to a cigar lounge with a bunch of nobodies and I'm gonna smoke. But in reality, you're just avoiding the work. And the craziest thing is, these are just a bunch of people who are all feeling resistance. And rather than heading, like facing that resistance head on and just working, they'll all just meet together and talk about what they're going to do. But the thing is, they'll never do it. Okay. And it's massively overrated in my opinion. So what you want to do instead is, with the time that you have, you want to actually work on your business, okay? The purpose of starting a business is to get paid. So you're going to focus on that. You're going to focus on getting paid. You're going to focus on building a product or service that's actually valuable. And you're going to focus on getting money. And then once you've done that, that's where the real connections come. The real connections come after that. For example, when I made $36,000 in a month, I did it on the platform school.com. And I won Alex Hormozi's school games. So Alex Hormozi, like, which is the top entrepreneur, like in the online education space for entrepreneurs right now, he invited me to Las Vegas. So I fucking flew to Las Vegas and I'm sitting in a room with Alex Hormozi. That's the kind of dude I want to network with, because I literally had a book and it was just full of notes, like everything I learned from him. I also learned from the other owner of school, which is Sam Ovens, and like a bunch of other people. These are the people I want to network with. I don't want to network with a bunch of broke guys who go to the cigar lounge and they don't even buy a nice like Cuban cigar. They buy like the cheapest cigar that they can afford, right? So build something valuable, actually make money, and then the people you want to network with, they're going to come to you. You're going to find a way to meet the people you actually care about. But joining some random networking groups or just messaging random people trying to network with them, that's not the solution here, okay? That's not what you need to be doing. So stop trying to meet people and instead start becoming someone who's worth meeting. And I promise you, once you do that, your life's going to change forever. You'll be in rooms with big entrepreneurs like Alex Hormozi, Sam Ovens, Jordan Belfort, and Russell Brunson, just to name a few that I've been in a room with. And you might not know who any of these are, but if you've watched the movie The Wolf of Wall Street, then you definitely know who Jordan Belfort is, okay? I managed to meet him in real life. Why? Because I became someone worth meeting. Simple as that. So the third thing that you need to give up is just give up on materialism for a while, okay? So this is like buying cars, clothes, jewelry, wasting money on fancy dinners, and basically just spending excess money on things that don't really serve you, like random furniture or whatever. And the reason that this is important is you have to understand that as an entrepreneur, the amount of money in your bank account is directly proportional to the size of your balls in business. Balls essentially being confidence here, okay? So if you make money and you spend all of it on random material shit that doesn't serve you, now you're living paycheck to paycheck, which means you don't have money to invest in yourself. You don't have money to invest in your business, but now you need to chase cash short term to pay the bills. You never want to be in that position. In fact, the way that I like to think about it is business is like going to war, okay? So on the screen, as you can see here, I've got like a war chest. And imagine you're a soldier, you're in the trenches, and you have loads of these chests, right? Like let's say 100 chests. And these chests are full of ammunition, food supplies, medical supplies, and a bunch of other things that you need. That soldier's confident. In fact, he's cocky to a degree. He's able to pull his head out of the trenches and take some shots. And if he misses them, he doesn't care. He's cocky about it. But what about if that same soldier only had one chest with his last supply of ammunition, his last supply of food, and his last supply of medical supplies? Now he's anxious. Now he's scared. Now he doesn't want to risk like unnecessary shots. And his entire mood changes and he's not able to take the risks of shooting anymore, okay? Which means he's more likely to lose. And it's exactly the same with your business, okay? The more money you have, the more risk you're able to take. And not only are you able to take more risk, but you feel more confident taking risk. Because imagine you have to make money because you need to eat. And some people might say like, yeah, that pressure like keeps me going. But at the end of the day, that's not going to get you to 100 million. You will never get to $1 million, $2 million a year by needing the urge to make money to eat, right? Once you make like $3,000, $4,000 a month, okay, cool, bro. You're going to eat. Like, do you just want to stay there? Or do you want to get to the next level? So what essentially happens is the more money that you save by not buying material goods, it means you're not in survival mode. and it means you don't worry about the bills, and it means you have more mental bandwidth, and therefore you have better execution. And you also have to understand that these material items, you don't own them. The things that you own end up owning you. For example, if you buy a new car, it could very well break down, and now the mechanic fees are going to be higher than your old car, or it's going to cost more to fill up a gas tank of petrol, or even worse, you can't just drive down the street normally anymore. You're making sure you're not scratching it, and instead of going around a turn slowly, you're really going to stick your head out and drive slowly, and you just don't feel comfortable anymore. And another thing that entrepreneurs really overlook is phase 2 of a business. The first business you're ever going to start is not going to be your last one. And this is if you want to be a millionaire, okay? This is if you want to be rich and you want to make a lot of money. Because the first few businesses you're going to start, they're going to make you $10, $20, $30,000 a month. And they've kind of reached their potential. Like, yeah, you could probably scale them further, but it's not really worth it. And if you want to get to the 10, 20 million mark, you need to start a new business. So for example, with me right now, I kind of realized the floor of my business, which is an online coaching business, might be around $100,000 a month. I don't want to make $100,000 a month only. I want to have 20, 30 million in my bank account. I don't want to buy hypercars. That's the kind of lifestyle I want to live. So for me to be able to do that, I need to start a new business. And that business will be bigger, for example, a software business. And you build your business, okay, based on equity, and then you sell the business. So your business might do 2 million a year, the valuation is 10 million, and you can sell it. But you're not going to be able to build a software company like that with $0. Even with AI and all this hype about vibe coding, like nobody's actually built anything like that really stands out without a team. And guess what you need for a team? Drum roll, please. Money, okay? So if you make $20,000, $30,000 a month and you live off 4,000, then yeah, you got $16,000 to $26,000 a month to invest. But the person who's obsessed with material goods, he never reaches that point, okay? So if you want to get richer, then see your money as employees working for you, but also it stops you from being in survival mode. You have no bills to worry about, you have no mental bandwidth to worry about, and you have better execution. And on top of that as well, you don't have unnecessary things stressing you out. When I was renting like this big ass house in Thailand, it just ended up adding more stress, right? So that one was about 2,000 something dollars a month, I think around 3,000. And now my apartment's $600 and I'm completely happy here. I'm absolutely dialed in. I don't have to worry about getting a big ass house cleaned and I'm paying all this money to get it cleaned and I don't even use it. And it had like a huge balcony and it would just get dirty when it rains. I don't give a fuck anymore. I got my $600 apartment. I'm gonna scale to the moon. Life's fucking good. So the fourth thing you need to give up, and I'm not gonna show the computer anymore because I have no visuals for this, is you need to give up looking at politics and the news. Like genuinely just clock out of the world. For example, if you go onto the news or you go on Twitter or whatever and you see all these political events, they make you emotional and you feel some kind of way and you have your opinion. But you have to understand that by you reading that, you have no control over it and it doesn't change anything at all. So you reading about something has no impact on your life and it has no impact on the actual event. So what's the point? But one thing you can control is how much money you make. You can control your skills. You can control the output you do every single day, and that will actively change your life. And the best thing about all of this is once you get to a point where you're making a lot of money, if there's something that is in the news and you don't like it, your money is usually useful. Like for example, I live in Thailand right now. If Thailand make a stupid law that I don't like and it affects me negatively, then I'll just move. Like it's not that serious. That's why I left England, because they have stupid laws that I don't fuck with. And also the situation there is just not good. So I just left. Okay. So making money will make your life better, but looking at these things won't. And the truth is, before you can feel like some freedom rallyist or you want to debate politics, you need to save yourself first, because you're only useful to society once you've saved yourself first. For example, if you go on a plane, like I'll put a picture here. So if you go on a plane, the flight attendant will even say, in case of an emergency where you might need a gas mask, put your own oxygen mask on first and then help someone else. And the significance behind that is if you don't put your own on and you try to help someone else, you could fucking die and you're dead. And because you couldn't help them, they're dead too. So it's like both of you died for no reason. But if you put the mask on, you could actually breathe. You'd actually be able to go and help somebody else, okay? So these are the 4 things that you need to give up. You need to give up this idea of work-life balance. You need to give up this idea of networking and joining networking groups. You need to give up the third idea, which is being materialistic, and then give up looking at politics, the news, and genuinely just clock out of the world, okay? So those are the 4 things. If you give them up, you'll make a lot of money. And if you don't, then, well, you won't make a lot of money and I can't save you at that point, okay? And by the way, if you want to make $10,000 to $30,000 a month profit by starting your own consulting or coaching business on a topic that you enjoy, and this will be a business I promise you'll enjoy, click the first link in the description. You can book a call with me. We'll jump on a call. We'll talk about your situation. I'll talk about what I have to offer, how it works and everything. And then if it sounds like something you want to do, you can make the payment. I'll start coaching you one-to-one until you hit $10,000 a month, okay? So that's it for this video. And with that said, I'll see you in the next one.